Shalom everybody, let's start the prayer for the counting of the Omer. Baruch atah Yahuwah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al safirat ha'omer, hayom yom ezrim ve'echad. Blessed are you, Yahuwah Eloah, King of the universe, who's commanded us to count the Omer on this day, day 21.
Shalom, beloveds of the King. Praise Abba Yahuwah for all that He is doing, and especially what He's doing in our lives as we continue with our message of Jeremiah. As we progress, as the deeper we go, the more serious the word is becoming. As now we're really starting to enter into some deep things. As tonight's chapter yesterday was more a rebuke to kings, and how kings need to stand responsible before the Father, especially the kings of the nations of the world, especially the kings whom the Father has blessed with wealth. And now, tonight, it is a message for the shepherds and the prophets and the priests, and a serious message for all those who serve the Father as prophet, priests, shepherds. Severe message. So let us read. Jeremiah 23. Woe to the shepherds, destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares Yahuwah. Now that is a serious word, because he's saying that it's the shepherds that are scattering the sheep of his pasture. Therefore, thus says Yahuwah, Eloah of Israel, against the shepherds who feed my people. So you see, the shepherds are called to feed the people. But what are the shepherds feeding the people? You see, this is the problem. What do the pastors feed the people? What are they feeding them? You have scattered my flock, driven them away, and have not tended to them. See, I'm punishing you for the evil of your deeds, declares Yahuwah. Why? Why would he say such a thing? That he says that that they are not feeding the sheep. Why? Are they shepherds or are they hirelings? Because we read in John chapter 10, and when we had a look at John chapter 10, it says that the good shepherd, he lays down his life for the sheep. Do the shepherds lay down their lives for the sheep? Are the shepherds so concerned with the sheep that they will speak the truth because it's truth that sets people free? Or are the shepherds more concerned about themselves and about their congregations and their ministries and about their back pockets maybe the fact that they need to receive all their tithes and their offerings to be able to pay for their big ministries? And therefore, they speak messages that is falsehood. But you see, the good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. It says in John chapter 10, verses 11 and verse 12 says, but the hireling, and not being a shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches the sheep and scatters them. Now the hireling flees because he is a hireling and is not concerned about the sheep. So Yeshua spoke very clearly about these shepherds. And he says they're not shepherds, they're hirelings, because they're not really concerned about the sheep. They're more concerned about themselves. They're more concerned about being seen, about being heard, about being known, about the popularity, about the fame, about the fortune. This is what they are concerned about. And therefore, they land up scattering the sheep because they don't feed the sheep. So that is why even today you've got so many people that are no longer in the church, and that is a good thing, because now those are the ones that the Father is going to be able to come and gather. Now listen to what he says, verse 3. Therefore, I shall gather the remnant of my flock out of the lands where I have driven them, and shall bring them back to their fold, and they shall bear and increase. So you see, do you see how many people have now started to leave the church? Because they've come to understand that the church is no longer feeding them. They've come to have their eyes opened to see that these pastors and these shepherds are hirelings. They don't care for them. They don't take care of them. They don't really give them meat. They give them milk, and they just tickle ears, and they're not really feeding them. Instead, they're being scattered. And so now, Father is going to gather his remnant, because you see, they are coming out of Babylon. His remnant is coming out of Babylon. They're coming out of this religious system. They're coming out of this world system. They're coming out of a religious system that they have seen gives them nothing but empty promises. Promises them many things, but gives them nothing. And there's no fulfillment, and there's no fullness within them. And they have come to realize that, what is this all about? Because they are not being fed. They're not changing. Their lives are still the same. So this is why he says, see, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when I shall raise for David a branch of righteousness. Praise Abba Yahuwah. A sovereign shall reign and act wisely, and shall do right ruling and righteousness in the earth. So you see, who is this branch? This is the good shepherd, the one spoken of in John chapter 10, when Joshua says, I am the good shepherd, and I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, and my sheep hear my voice, and the voice of a stranger they shall not follow, but my sheep will follow me. And so you see, Joshua is the one who's going to gather his sheep. Joshua is the one who is teaching his sheep, because the sheep know how to hear the voice of the shepherd. And those who are truly walking after Joshua, he will raise up shepherds after his heart. So you see, he says he's the one who's going to bring right ruling. See, Joshua had to come to be able to bring right ruling upon the earth. He had to be able to come and bring righteousness upon the earth, because people follow their own way and their own righteousness, and they're not following Abba's way. And that is why we're called to follow him. So it says, in his days, Yehudah shall be saved. So see, in his days, in whose days? In the days of David, a branch of righteousness. So in the days of when this branch of righteousness is going to raise up, Yehudah is going to be saved. So you see, Yehudah, the tribe of Judah, were the ones that a lot of them rejected them. Well, who really rejected him? Again, the shepherds, those Pharisees and Sadducees, the religious leaders of his day. They were the ones who rejected him. They were the ones who didn't want to accept him. But he came for a people. He came for the people, and he laid down his life for the tribe of Yehudah. You see, he came for his own. He said, I didn't come for the lost tribes of the house of Israel. I came for my own. But a man goes out and buys a field he buys the whole field for the treasure that is in the field. He buys the whole field. So you see, he knows that there's many that are scattered amongst the nations. But when he first came, he came for his own. But where did he start his ministry? He started his ministry up north, because it was north where the other 10 tribes went astray in the north. So he's gathering them. And so he says, in his days, Yehudah shall be saved, and Israel will dwell safely. Because in his days, Joshua is the one that is raising up the fullness of the house of Israel. He's the one raising them up. He's the one bringing the two sticks to become one. So you see, this is not man's doing. This is not when man all of a sudden realizes and says, oh, let us gather the house of Israel with the house of Judah. Father knows who they are, and Father is gathering them. This is prophetic. This is end times. These scriptures that I'm reading now, from verses 3 to verses 8, is prophetic. It's end times. It's what we're busy working with at the moment. This is not the Israel that is there yet, because he says, in his days, Yehudah shall be saved and Israel shall dwell safely. That's not the house of Israel right now, because in the land of Eretz Israel, they don't dwell safely. So this is still coming. So he's going to gather his 12 tribes, and that is where we see in Revelation chapter 7, where he's saying, seal off the 12 tribes. So he's gathering his 12 tribes, and this is what's so powerful in the weeks ahead, and in the days ahead, as we're going to start getting to Jeremiah 31, Jeremiah 33, we are going to read the prophetic utterances about this house becoming one house, the house of Judah and the house of Israel. And this is his name, whereby he shall be called Yahuwah, our righteousness. So you see, who are these people? Those that he's gathering of the house of Israel and the house of Judah, they need to be tzaddik. They need to be Yahuwah's tzaddikineu. Tzaddik, it's like tzaddikenu. That's how you say it, tzadikenu. And they are the tzaddik people. They will be those who walk in righteousness. Just like it was said of Noah. Noah was righteous. He was a righteous man. He was perfect, and he followed Yahuwah. He walked with Yahuwah. So at the end of the day, who is going to be this house of Israel and house of Judah that's going to become one house? They will be those called. He shall be called Yahuwah, our righteousness. So these people shall be called to walk in righteousness. They shall be what he said. What did he say to Abraham? You need to be righteous. What was it that was said of Noah? Noah was a righteous man. He was perfect, and he walked with Yahuwah. So this house that's going to be the branch of Yeshua, it talks about he's the branch, and these people of the house of Judah and the house of Israel, Israel will dwell safely, and Yehudah will be saved, because Yehudah needs to be saved. Right now, they're not even receiving Messiah, but even yesterday, I spoke to a friend of mine, not yesterday, day before, in Israel. It was her birthday, and I just phoned her just to bless her. And she gave me wonderful news of friends of mine that are very much Jewish, and now they are coming into the kingdom. So isn't it amazing? Father is reaching his people in that land. Therefore see, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when they shall say no more, as Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim, but as Yahuwah lives, who brought up and led the seed of the house of Israel. So see, listen, the seed of the house of Israel, not the seed of the house of Judah, out of the land of the north, and from the lands where I have driven them, and they shall dwell on their own soil. So you see, who are the ones that's only now dwelling on the soil? The house of Judah, because it's the house of Judah that was keeping the Torah of Yahuwah, but the house of Israel, they went astray. But yet he's saying the house of Israel is the one who's going to be able to come back to the land. Why? Because right now they are the ones not being able to return back to the land. So understand, as you are going to be faithful, as you are going to keep his ways, there is a place that's been made for you. And that is why he's the one gathering his tribes, and he's the one that's going to bring us back to the land. And all he requires of us is to be faithful in order to be able to keep his will, keep his ways, keep his Torah, keep his ordinances, keep his right rulings, and walk righteously before the Father. And my heart within me is broken because of the prophets. All my bones shake. I am like a drunken man, and like a man overcome by wine, because of Yahuwah and because of his set-apart words. So you must understand, he is broken. Jeremiah is broken. And I understand Jeremiah's frustration. And I understand Jeremiah's burden. Because when you see these false prophets that are out there, and what they continue to speak and what they continue to say and how they keep leading the people astray. They give the people wine of drunkenness. They drink from the wine of the intoxication of this mixed seed of Babylon. And so he says, for the land is filled with adulterers, for the land mourns because of a curse. The pastures of the wilderness are dried up, and their course is evil, and their might is not right. You see, the land is filled with adulterers. The land is filled with fornication. The land is filled with idolatry. But what is the prophet speaking? Peace, brother. Father's going to bless you. Father's going to give you peace. Father's going to bless you. Father's going to prosper you. Father's going to do all these things for you. But you are filled with adultery. You are filled with fornication. You are filled with idolatry. You do not repent and turn back to him and his ways. But don't worry. Father's going to bless you. You see, that's the drunkenness of the false doctrines that's been given us. And that's what the people are drinking from. So he says, therefore, their ways is to them like slippery ways in the dark. They are driven on, and they shall fall in them. For I bring evil on them, the year of their punishment, declares Yahuwah. So you see, there is a time when all these false prophets are going to be judged for the false things that they have continued to speak. They continue to speak their false things. They continue to speak their abominations. They continue to speak these false things. And he says, for both prophet and priest have become defiled. So I missed out the scripture there, verse 11. For both prophet and priest have become defiled. So you see, both the prophet and the pastor, the priest that's supposed to lead the people, they have become defiled. Or let's just say the prophet and the apostle, or the prophet and the evangelist, or the prophet and the teacher, or the prophet and the pastor. So it's the priesthood. They have become defiled, even in my house. I have found their evil, declares Yahuwah. So you see, just because they call themselves by the name of Yahuwah, just because they're prophesying, thus says the Lord, doesn't mean to say that they stand right before the Father. Do you understand? Do you understand? They are defiled. They are defiled. Why? Because what are they drinking? From what cisterns are they drinking? From the polluted cisterns of the mixed seed. So he says, therefore their ways to them like slippery ways. So you see, they give you slippery ways in the dark. They are driven on, and they shall fall in them. For I bring evil on them, the year of their punishment, declares Yahuwah. And I have seen folly in the prophets of Shemaron. They prophesied by Baal. So you see, they prophesied by Baal. So they are into Baal worship. They're not into the true set-apart ways of the Father. They are still prophesying by the Baal ways of sun god worship and all this other kind of ways of that is not the Father's ways. And they are prophesying by Baal and led my people Israel astray. So see, because of the mixed seed that these prophets drink from, they don't drink from a pure water from the living well that is coming without contamination. That's the well of righteousness that is set apart unto the Father, that is keeping Abba Yahuwah's ways. Because what is righteousness? Righteousness is ways of coming back to the ways of Torah. They are drinking from other polluted cisterns, and therefore they are giving mixed seed. So they give word, partially could be from the Father, but partially is flesh. So they mix the word of the Father mixed with flesh. And among the prophets of Jerusalem, I have seen a horrible matter, committing adultery, walking in falsehood. And they strengthen the hands of evil ones, so that no one turns back to his evil, so that no one turns back from his evil. All of them are like Sodom to me, and her inhabitants like Amara. So do you understand today when we are looking at the scripture, we are seeing, what is he saying? They commit adultery. They fornicate with the ways of the world. They are adulterous. Why? Because they still love the world and the things of the world. They are fornicators, fornicating with the ways of the world. They have the lust of the flesh, the pride of life. This is what they serve. And then he says, and they're walking in falsehood. And listen to what he says. Then they strengthen the people. They give them encouraging words. They give them nice, strong, encouraging words to strengthen the hands of evil ones. So they strengthen them. They encourage them. And they give them good prophetic words. Oh, the Father's not going to lead you astray. The Father's not going to do anything to you. And what is the thing that is lacking? What happens is they strengthen evil ones so that no one turns back from his evil. So instead of telling the people, you have gone astray, you are no longer drinking from the fountain of life that comes from Abba Yahuwah and his ways. No. Continue in your lustful ways. Continue fornicating with the world. Continue doing everything that the world wants to give you. Continue with all your idolatrous ways of Sunday church and Easter and Christmas and all these other pagan festivals and holidays. It's not a problem. You're not going to go through anything. Continue in your wicked ways. Don't turn from anything, because the Father loves you and he's going to bless you, and you will be blessed, and you're not going to have any judgment. And don't worry, while you're at it, you're also going to be raptured out of here, because you are so holy. You understand? What are we doing? From where have we fallen? And this is why the Father is speaking. And he says, all of them are like Sodom to me, and their inhabitants are like Gomorrah. Because at the end of the day, what was Sodom and Gomorrah? He couldn't find righteous people in that place because they were all about the lust of the flesh. Now you got the church. What is the church doing? They want to endorse gay marriages and endorse all of this, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. But they are the priests. They are the priests. Understand, they are the shepherds. They call what's evil good and what's good evil. And this is where we are today. Let's call what's good evil and what's evil good. No problem. We will now be shepherds. We will now be priests. But my brother, we cannot speak. Do not judge. Do not judge. Let's embrace them. So now we are endorsing gay marriages. So now the prophets, the priests, the pastors are marrying gays. And now we will have them in churches where there's worship leaders are gays, but it's okay. And now there's adultery. Oh my goodness. If you just take Hillsongs, look, even now the leader of Hillsongs has been caught in major scandals. And then the Hillsong leader of New York, scandals, adultery, fornication, drunkenness, all of these things. This is what these people are involved in. But these are the mega churches, But you see, this is what Father's saying. They're going to fall, one after the other. We are going to start seeing, because when you start having people queuing outside church to go to church, there must be something that's being preached there that is not being preached, but what are they going there for? So in New York, the people were standing queue. Why? Because all the celebrities are there, and it's all about this wonderful music. But who's being exalted? Is it really the Father being exalted, or is it the worship leaders being exalted and all the celebrities being exalted? These people become celebrities eventually. From where have we fallen? Therefore, thus says Yahuwah of hosts concerning the prophets, see, I'm making them eat wormwood, and shall make them drink poisoned water. So see, what is the wormwood? We've already spoken about this in the other chapter. The wormwood is the poisoned water. That is what's going to come and poison the water. The wormwood comes and the star falls in Revelation chapter 9. The star's going to fall and then it's going to poison the water. A third of the water is going to be poisoned. And so what's happening? Our water's being poisoned with venom, snake venom. and all this venom coming in the water. And he's saying they want to be able to continue to worship their falsehood. I will hand them over to Babylon because they want Babylon. Let them stay in Babylon, and I'm going to judge them in Babylon. And so they will drink from this poisoned water because they continue in their fornication. They continue in their idolatry. Thus says Yahuwah of hosts, for the defilement has gone out all the land from the prophets of Jerusalem. So you see, then these prophets go into Israel, and then from Israel they send out these prophetic words from Israel. And yet at the end of the day, more abomination, more defilement. They go into the land, and then they prostitute the land, and then from there they prostitute themselves, and then from there they send forth their defiled words. Thus says Yahuwah of hosts, do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you. They lead you astray. So you see, you have to be very careful whose prophetic word you listen to. You've got to be very careful, because at the end of the day, if you listen to a prophetic word where this prophet is telling you peace, peace, and no destruction and no judgment and no nothing, and it's just peace and prosperity, be very careful, because the prophets are really supposed to stand before the Father. As much as they encourage, they also have to correct. They also need to bring people into correction, bring them in line, so that people may repent and turn from their wicked ways and come back to the Father because they've gone astray. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of Yahuwah. So you see, now there's so many. It's just a vision and another dream and another vision and another dream, and it's all these wonderful things. And then a lot of these visions and these dreams, and they interpret it from themselves of what they want to interpret. So then it becomes more flesh, because you see, the interpretation is going to depend on where that prophet is in what he wants to say to the people. If he's one who's wanting to be able to rebuke the people, or if he's just wanting to encourage the people. I remember the one prophet turning around and saying, oh no, the Father didn't call me to be able to bring judgment and correction. The Father just called me in order to encourage the people. And I thought, you've got to be joking. Then what kind of prophet are you? Because if you are a prophet that is only encouraging the people and giving them encouraging words and uplifting the people, then you cannot be a true prophet. Because a true prophet, if the Father himself, now listen carefully, if the Father himself stands by two pillars, he says he's righteous, he's just, and if he's righteous and he's just, he's going to judge. But at the same time, he's compassionate, he's loving, he's merciful, he's kind. Then how is a prophet who speaks by the mouth of the Father only going to bring encouragement? I ask you this today. How is a prophet only always going to speak to you a word that is going to be able to just be uplifting and just encouraging, and not have to be able to bring a word that's going to bring a correction and a repentance and coming back to him? That is an impossibility. And when I stood there and I listened to this prophet say this, I thought, my Father, have mercy, because this is the very thing that's going to lead the people astray. Because you see, the only reason why we do not want to rebuke is because we don't want to lose our following. Because you see, it's about impressing the people, because we don't want to lose our following. So he says, they keep on saying to those who despise me. So you see, they keep on saying to people who do not follow his way, who do not keep his Torah, who do not come back to his ordinances, who continue in the lust of their flesh, to say they don't show the Father that they love him. Because at the end of the day, let's just quickly look at one scripture, because as I'm speaking this, I think to myself, a person can speak and speak, but you need to, I keep speaking these things. So if we are going to be able to say that we love him and that we serve him and that we truly want to be able to follow him, then this is what he says. Listen to what he says in 1 John chapter 2 from verse 3. And he says, and by this we know that we know him if we guard his commands. So if you say that you know him, you say that you love him, If you love him, you will obey his commands. So if you say that you know the Father and you love the Father, then you will guard his commands. The one who says, I know him, and does not guard his commands is a liar, and the truth is not in him. So do you see what I'm saying? The truth is not in that person. But whoever guards his word, truly the love of the Lord has been perfected. The love of the Lord has been perfected. So that person walks in love, because love encourages, but love also rebukes. If you love your child, do you not discipline your child? Because you love him, you discipline your child. Father says he chastises those whom he loves. He disciplines. He rebukes those whom he loves. So because he loves you, he rebukes you. He chastises you. By this we know that we are in him. The one who says that he stays in him ought to himself also to walk even as he walked. So you see, we are to follow Yeshua. We are to walk as he walked. So he says, let's go back to Jeremiah 23, verses 17. They keep on saying to those who despise me, Yahuwah has said, you shall have peace. And to all who walk according to the stubbornness of their own heart, and they say, no evil comes upon you. So imagine, all these people that walk in the stubbornness of their own hearts, they are saying, don't worry, you're going to be raptured. So you're going to be walking in the stubbornness of your own heart. You're not going to go through any destruction. You're not going to go through anything. You don't lay down your life for him. You don't live for him. You don't obey him. You don't keep his statutes, his ordinances, his precepts. But you are holy, and you're going to be raptured. From where have we fallen? For who has stood in the counsel of Yahuwah and has seen and heard his word? Those, and who has listened to his word and obeyed it? For who has stood in the counsel of Yahuwah and has seen and heard his word? Who has listened to his word and obeyed it? So see, the word that the Father gives is to be obeyed. It's not just a word that is to be spoken. It's a word to be obeyed. And so that is why the Father brings a word that is saying, Shama. You need to hear and you need to obey. So we start with obeying the word. So how can we say that we are going to obey a prophetic word that's going to come from someone's mouth, but we don't even obey what the word says, the written word of his word? So now do you understand why he says spirit and truth? It's exactly what it is. So he says, see, a storm of Yahuwah shall go forth in a rage. A whirlwind, it whirls on the head of the wrong. So you see, that is why there's a storm coming. There is a storm coming, and it's going to rage on top of the head of the wrong. And he says, the displeasure of Yahuwah shall not turn back until he has done and established the purposes of his heart. Listen, in the latter days, you shall understand it perfectly. So do you see? We are in the latter days. And this which Jeremiah is busy prophesying is for the latter days. And that's why he's saying you're going to understand it perfectly. Because the whirlwind of the storm and the destruction and the things that I've spoken is certainly coming. And understand, the things that Jeremiah was prophesying is only not just prophesying for Jeremiah in his time. It's prophesying right now. Because right now we have never seen such falsehood like we see now. And that's why he says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, because they believed the lie, I am going to send the spirit of delusion upon them, because they believed the lie, because they did not want to believe the truth, because they believed falsehood. So he says, I did not send these prophets, yet they run. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. It's like Elsie always says, is it prophesying or is it prophesying? Which one is it? Do they prophesy or do they prophesy? Because it's either prophesy or it's either prophesy. Because there's a lot of falsehood coming from a pulpit in this day and age. I did. So he says, but if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have let my people hear my words, and they would have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their deeds. So do you see, if the prophet truly stands before the Father, oh my Father, if if a prophet in this day and age truly stands before the Father, they are grieved in their spirit. They are grieved because they understand that the Father is grieved in his spirit because he sees the wickedness and what is going on in his church, what is going on in the Torah movement, what is going on amongst the Jewish people that amongst the Jews, and all of it. He stands and he looks at it all. And that is why he is speaking a stern warning to say, do you not understand that judgment is at your doorstep? Because you people want to continue in your evil deeds, the Father says. So every time he tells me to sit down and my hand must write from the mouth of what he speaks, it's just rebuke. But he has encouragement for those that are following him, for those that are truly following his way. There's always an encouragement. There's always an encouraging word for a remnant. So he says, I am Eloah close by, declares Yahuwah, and not an Eloah afar off. If anyone is hidden in secret places, would I not see him, declares Yahuwah? Do I not fill the heavens and the earth, declares Yahuwah? I have heard what the prophets have said who prophesy falsehood in my name, saying, I have dreamt, till when? It be in the heart of the prophets. Till when will it be in the hearts of the prophets that they will continue to share another dream and all these nice things that come out of these dreams? We will see tsunamis, but we see it as a good thing and not even a bad thing, because I have seen, I have dreamt, and then I interpret it in my own understanding, and I don't want to see destruction, and I don't want to see a hard word. And he says, till when shall it be in the heart of the prophets of falsehood, and the prophets of deceit of their own heart? So you see, at the end of the day, if there's deceit in your own heart, and you have not bowed your knee in the place of where you yourself have not turned from the wicked way, but your flesh is still on the throne, then you are going to prophesy out of a place of mixed seed, and therefore you prophesy out of what you want to see happen and not truly what the Father is showing. Who try to make my people, now listen to what happens with a lot of these false prophets, who try to make my people forget my name by their dreams. So now all these prophets, they say dreams and visions, and then people chase after them. And when the teachings come to return back to the true name of the Father, no. But if this prophet is a prophet and is still using all these false names, do you understand? Then the people are not going to be remembering the name of Yahuwah. So do you see why it's so important that we start to turn from our wicked ways? And there's going to come a time that the people are just going to have to understand that we are coming into truth now. And whether people want to receive it or not, if they're going to get offended, we are going to have to start to speak truth. His name is not Lord and God. And he's saying, listen to what he says. Who try to make my people forget my name by their dreams, which everyone relates to his neighbor as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. So see, Baal means Lord. So they have forgotten his name for Baal, which is Lord, which is the same as Adonai, my Lord, my Baal. This is exactly what he has said. They have called me Lord. They no longer call me by my name, Yahuwah. They call me Lord, and they call me God, and they call me by these Baal names, and they don't call me by my name. The prophet who has had a dream, let him relate the dream, and he who has my word, let him speak my word in truth. What is the chaff to the wheat, declares Yahuwah. So see, Father wants more, his word to be preached, because his word is the truth, and it's his word that sets free. Is not my word like fire, declares Yahuwah, and like a hammer that shatters a rock. Therefore, see, I am against the prophets, declares Yahuwah, who steal my word, every one from his neighbor. So you see now, look and see what happened. Let's just go back. Let's go back to last year, end of 2020. Let's just go back to the end of 2020. Man, one prophet raised up and said, that Donald Trump is going to be a second time in office. And this prophet prophesied it. And all of a sudden, all the other prophets climbed on the bandwagon. And now all the prophets are hearing that he's going to be in power. He's the one who's going to lead the nation, because he would have had to be in 2 terms. It came from one prophet's mouth. That prophet has now died. And that prophet I must question. And so at the end of the day, what happened to all those prophets that then climbed on the same bandwagon and went and said to all the people, no, Donald Trump is going to come in again. He is the one who's going to run for office again. And yet that's not what happened. But yet the prophets prophesied. But how many did you see come back and say we were wrong? We made a mistake. How many of them do we see that? So listen to what he says now. Therefore, see, I am against the prophets, declares Yahuwah, who steal my words, every one from his neighbor. See, I'm against the prophets, declares the Yahuwah, who use their tongue and say, he declares, see, I am against those who prophesy false dreams, declares Yahuwah, and relate them and lead my people astray by their falsehoods and by their reckless boasting. But I myself did not send them, nor have I commanded them, and they do not profit this people at all, declares Yahuwah. So you see, you have to question, if these things is not bringing you to a place of where you're repenting, turning from your wicked ways, then you have to question, what is coming your way? Is it falsehood or is it truth? And when these people, or the prophet, or the priest ask you, saying, what is the message of Yahuwah? Then you shall say to them, what message? I shall forsake you, declares Yahuwah. As for the prophet and the priest and the people who say, the message of Yahuwah, I shall punish that man and his house. So, my goodness, that prophet, listen to what is coming. Listen carefully. As for the prophet and the priest and the people who say, the message of Yahuwah, I shall punish that man and his house. This is what each one says to his neighbor and each one to his brother. What has Yahuwah answered and what has Yahuwah spoken? But the message of Yahuwah you no longer remember, for every man's message is his own word. For you have changed the words of Eluah. You have changed the words of the living Eluah of hosts. Of Yahuwah of hosts, our Eluah. So go to now, just quickly go to Isaiah chapter 24. So many of these prophets are prophesying all these things. But if you go to Isaiah chapter 24, verse 5, what does it say? For the earth has been defiled under its inhabitants, because they have transgressed the Torah, changed the law, broken the everlasting covenant. So you see, these prophets that are prophesying dreams, visions and dreams, are they bringing you back to the Torah? Or is everything that they're bringing changing the laws and the broken, the everlasting covenant? What is it that they're doing? Because this is what he says. The earth has been defiled under its inhabitants because they have transgressed the Torah, changed the law, broken the everlasting covenant. Now listen to what he says in verse 6. Therefore a curse shall consume the earth, and those who dwell in it be punished. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth will be burnt, and few men shall be left. Few men. Now, that's Isaiah prophesying. This is Jeremiah prophesying to a bunch and that word is for the inhabitants of the earth, because that's last day things that's coming. There's going to be few that are going to be left. So you see why he says, for the prophet and the priest and the people who say, the message of Yahuwah, I shall punish that man and his house. Why? Because verse 36 says, but the message of Yahuwah, you no longer remember. Because what is the message that you should remember? coming back to his ways, coming back to his right rulings, him being called Yahuwah our righteousness, because we are supposed to come back into righteousness. We are supposed to come back into his righteous right rulings. But instead, what are we doing? The message is, each is his own word. For you have changed the words of the living owl, the living Alua, Yahuwah of hosts, our Alua. This is what you say to the prophet. What has Yahuwah answered you? And what has Yahuwah spoken? But since you say the message of Yahuwah, therefore thus says Yahuwah, because you say this word, the message of Yahuwah, and I have not sent you, saying, do not say the message of Yahuwah. So if they continue to say the message of Yahuwah, and they're saying peace, peace and prosperity, what is coming their way? Therefore see, I shall utterly forget you and cast you away from my presence, along with the city that I gave you and your fathers. So he's going to cast those prophets out, and I shall put an everlasting reproach on you and an everlasting shame that is not forgotten. This is a serious warning. May Abba Yahuwah have mercy. May Abba Yahuwah bless you all. Shabbat Shalom. May you have a wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.